All right, hello wine drinking people. We are back, and back to what I had to drink in the store yesterday or sometime a day ago or something, I don't know. Well, hey, you know, sometimes it's better to be a big fish in a little pond than a little fish in a big pond. And I think this is what our next guest, Dan Kravitz, found out. You know, I've known Dan for quite some time. He's got some great wines, some of the best values coming out of France and, well, now Spain. He's got stuff. And, hey, he's been making wine in California under his own label for 10 years. And, you know, unfortunately, we don't do a ton of business in the $10 section. Well, doing more business now than we have in the past. But, you know, he's got a collection of some great stuff and very unique stuff, too. You know, you don't see Savoie and, you know, interesting little French wines like that in most people's portfolio. A lot of the big distributors are scared to death of things like that. You know, and we're the only ones that have them. I don't know. Well, there's some people, that's why we got people like Dan out there to educate us about these things. And everything he brought me the other day was outstanding. And a great book about all of his producers here. It gives you, you know, as a merchant, some information about every one of the guys that he's got, you know, he does business with. And that's great. Information is power. I love things like that. Dan, great to see you. Some good wines. Let's see, what did Dan have for us to start? Wine Vin de Savoie. All right, this is something my dad brought back for his first trip from Europe. And, you know, the only problem I have with this wine is it's only 11% alcohol. Well, some people like that. Okay, Pierre Boniface, Apremont, which is the foothills of the Alps, 90 miles south of Geneva. And you're standing right there in the vineyard. And, you know, this is, the Apremont is the name of the town, actually. And it's a grape that I've never heard of. But really fresh and light and kind of white flowers, lemon citrus there, and really clean and zesty wine. Leaves the tongue salivating for food. That's one of my favorite types of wine because when I think about food, when I think about wine, I start getting hungry. All right, well, Chateau de Tourtes, Sauvignon from Blaye. And this used to be the Côte de Blaye. They've changed the naming, the nomenclature here in this part of Bordeaux for some reason to further confuse customers like me and merchants like me, I'm positive of. All right, well, fresh and clean white with grapefruit and lemon citrus with a whiff of sea salt, a touch of white pepper on the nose as well. Simple, straightforward, you know, green melon, a touch of herb on the palate. Lovely freshness. Again, leaves the tongue salivating for food. One of the things I love about wines like this. All right, and a nice little value too, 17 bucks. Maybe a little expensive for a wine from the Blaye, but hey, you know, the euro is just killing us here, man. All right, the Lenoble Chardonnay from the Bin de Pegau, $12.75. Well, fresh apples, pears, lemon, citrus, hints of stone minerality there, bright and fresh on the. This is a style of Chardonnay for people that don't like Chardonnay. And when people that don't like Chardonnay, when people that tell me they don't like Chardonnay, I know they mean they don't like oak. This wine, very fresh and clean. And again, leaves the tongue salivating for food. All right, the next wine up, an Haut Medoc. And this is from, it's Medoc du Haut-Bézac, I think is what it's called. Maybe I wrote that down incorrectly. Black plum, fresh earth. Very simple and straightforward wine. 2007, didn't produce really complex wines. Really light, really easy to drink. A nice little coiffer here. 75% Merlot and 25% Cabernet Sauvignon. Next up, we had a wine, Saint Chinian. And, well, that's the name of the appellation in the Languedoc, and some really good stuff happening down in the Languedoc. As a matter of fact, Dan owns land down there now. And this is Chateau Saint Baulery. And this is a 40% Carignan, 30% Syrah, 30% Grenache blend. Nice amount of tobacco spice and that dark plum and cherry fruit there. Some dried herbs, bay leaf. Dan says that's from the Cinsault there, or the Carignan. But really nice, complex bouquet of aromas there. Nice and fresh, a little savory on the finish there. And a nice amount of plum and cassis berry fruit, though, and that herb note showing as well. Really nice stuff. That's one of my favorite wines, especially for $13.75 of the whole tasting, man. Really good stuff. All right, next up, Selection Laurence Farode, which this is, you know, the owner of Domaine Du Pegau. This is their Negociant label, and some really good stuff. This Côte de Rhône from 09, a great vintage in the Rhône, 75% Syrah, 25% Grenache. A lovely amount of that berry pie fruit on the nose, some dried meat, animal kind of nuance there, some herbs and flowers. Really fresh and juicy berry fruit on the tongue, smooth tannins, and a nice amount of that floral and herbal note showing through on the finish. Really good stuff, man. Also one of the best values in this tasting here. Next up, the Côte de Rhône Sergeret. And I failed French class in high school and college, man. Still, this is one of the areas within Côte de Rhône, and this is one grower that they get from these this wine from. They used to go send their grapes to the co-ops, which, you know, a lot of these growers don't have the ability to make and market their own wine and sell it in addition to growing it. So, you know, this is great. Laurence convinced this person, look, your grapes are too good to go to the co-op. Let me help you make it and then market it and sell it. So really great stuff here. Some fresh earth and barnyard nuance to the nose. 80 to 90% Grenache with a touch of Syrah, Mourvedre, and Carignan. Lovely fresh cherry, cranberry, pie-like fruit. Good, nice drinkable style with soft tannins and a nice savory finish to this wine. Really good stuff. All right, next up, the Selection Laurence Furrowed Gigondas. And this is another long-term contract with growers. Some dried herbs and flowers. A little bit of sausage, kind of meaty note there on the nose to that fresh berry pie fruits. Lovely intensity on the palate. Silky, velvety, and really lovely concentration and depth of fruit. 85% Grenache with a bit of Syrah, Mourvedre, and Carignan. Again, the blend and that lovely floral quality showing through the nose. Really good, excellent Gigondas. Next up, the Chateauneuf de Pape from this Selection Laurence Furrowed label. Really a complex bouquet of dried meats, herbs, flowers, along with a host of plum, cranberry, cherry fruit. Really complex. This is from 2007, a great vintage in this area. Not many 2007 still available. Lovely concentration on the palate. This wine needs some time. You know, it's still tannic, layers of spice and herbs, floral nuance. Excellent stuff. Maybe just a little bit expensive at $73. But next up, the Domaine Du Pegau stuff. That's what we expect to pay from Pegau, folks. $70. Second worst vintage of the decade, 2008. 2002, as you may have heard, also really bad. Most people didn't make their top cuvées or any Chateauneuf in some cases. 04 and 06 would follow that as difficult vintages. But 08, one of the things you expect from a great producer like Pegau in a vintage like this is a wine that is going to be much more drinkable at a young age. And that's exactly what this wine was. Lovely floral and dried meat and nuanced sweet herbs to the nose there with that cherry and kind of plum fruit. Smooth and silky on the tongue. Soft, accessible tannins with a nice note of that herb and dried floral note. And a hint of peppery spice coming through on the finish. Excellent stuff. All right, next up we had a wine from the Côte d'Aix-en-Provence, which is kind of a downer for after we, you know, had this great couple runs with these Chateauneufs. But this is a Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, Grenache, and, well, this is a Rosé, I'm sorry, so maybe a light refresher at the end there. But, hey, some people end with the whites and with the Rosés, why not? But this is one of Dan's wines, one of his blends, and a nice fresh bouquet of flowers, some chalky minerally nuance there as well, fresh and clean on the palate, and hey, that did refresh me at the end of that. All right, well, a really nice little rosé coming in around $17.75. All right, that's what we had to drink with Dan. Coming up next, Brad Kinder with Kinder Wine.